Hi guys, it's Clarice and welcome to another video tutorial with me. And today we are going to be doing something slightly different. We are going to be learning how to paint floral or loose florals in watercolor and then going over and doing some inking. So I hope you guys are excited. This was just like a rough practice sheet, as you can see, from the Peony virtual class, and then this was just me testing things out. All right, so let's move on to the material that I'll be using for today. For today, I am going to be using Canson watercolor paper, which is what I normally use for most of my watercolor videos. So if you're new to my channel and you're looking for any of these products, please feel free to look in the description below. Yes, then we are using, for watercolors, we're using the St. Petersburg White Nights set of 36. And the colors I'm contemplating using today are going to be the Metallic Red and the Quin Lilac. And then for the centers, we're going to use a yellow mixing a little bit with possibly burnt umber or Mars brown. And then finally for the stems and the leaves, I really like the chromium oxide. Or you can always mix like a yellowish green with umber to kind of get like a woodsy kind of green, nothing that bright. All right, so that's for colors. For pens, okay, so this is the main, well, the second main item for today's video, which is the Black Graphic Pen Collection by Etchr. And it comes with a whole bunch of different pens and nibs, or nib styles, but we are going to be using the number 5, number 2, and the S, which I'm assuming is the small. Yeah, so those are the pens we're using. And then for our brushes, last but not least, we are going to be using the number 8 round by ZenArt Supplies, the number 2 rigger, which is also by ZenArt Supplies, and then finally the Escoda number 2. All right, so that's that, and we are ready to begin. Reminder, if you are new to my channel, that I do a lot of watercolor videos of the floral kind, so please feel free, if you like this video, to hit the like button and also check out the other videos and consider subscribing to the channel. Okay, so we're ready to begin. We are going to start off by using number 8, and I am going to get some of my color and just mix it onto the side here on this palette. I will start off with using the Quin Lilac, and let's just mix that on here. And I'm going to make sure that it's about like a 30-70 consistency. Just mix more of that color. Perfect. And instead of washing off my brush, I'm just going to go ahead and get some more of the Metallic Red using whatever I have on this brush, because if I get like a nice mixture of it, they might combine and look quite nice together, just because we're using similar colors. And again, these colors are suggested colors. You don't have to use the exact same ones. It's entirely up to you. All right, since I have the Metallic Red already on my brush, we're going to start off with doing this one. So if I didn't mention it earlier, we are doing cosmos. So the first thing I'm going to do is start painting the petals. And they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 petals. We don't have to do 8. I mean, if you can fit it, great. Our main exercise here is the inking as well. All right, so we're going to start off by doing the petals, like I mentioned. So I'm using the tip of my brush, pressing down, trailing downward, just like that. So that's one. Here's another one. I'm using 2 strokes to get these, to get each petal in. Might even get a little bit of the purple onto the tip of the brush, just to get like a different hue happening. Then getting some more of this, we're going to go ahead and do the next petal. And you can see how I am doing that. I'm kind of like holding my brush sideways to get that in, leaving white space in between the petals. And now that I have these ones done, what I'm going to do is just get some of the purple and just lightly go in and get some strokes. This is optional, you don't have to do this. What I'm trying to do is just getting like a two-tone kind of feel into these loose florals. Just to kind of give it that additional bump up in color. All right, so now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 3 left. All right, so downward and in. Let's do another one here, and then just one over here. Perfect. And then the next thing I'm going to do is just get some more of that red, and I'm just going to add it just at the tips of these areas here. If it is still damp, it'll give you a nice blend in, so you get a nice light to dark blending happening. If not, it's just going to kind of look like that, which is okay. I'm just adding some more of that quin here to kind of mimic what we have happening there. Okay, perfect. So now we've done that. I just want to try and get this to kind of match that. All right, I think that's good enough. We can now move on to the next floral. So now we have the quin. Okay, since I used some of the red, it's gotten too dark. So we'll do this next one over here on this end, just slightly below. Actually, I'll do it over here. So 1, 2, let's try and do this quickly. 3, 4, getting a little bit of the madder lake. 5, pushing all the color down. 6, 7, and then finally 8. Tough squeeze, I know, but it's all good. We've got all of that in there, and now exactly like we did previously, getting some of that darker quin lilac and just adding it to the bottom of these petals. Did I say stem earlier? I can't remember, but these are not stems. These are the bottom of the petals, in case I did say stem. All right, perfect. So that's that. And now we can move on to doing the yellow centers. And so for the yellow centers, I'm going to use the number 2 Escoda, and we're getting the yellow like I mentioned, and that's right here. And just going to go ahead and add some. Okay, you need a little bit of paper towel, make sure that's handy. In case you got too much on your brush, you can always kind of take it off. Now, what I should have done for this particular floral was added, either done the yellow first and then the petals, or possibly left a larger space of white in between. But that's okay, because what I'm going to do is now wash off the yellow, get some of the Mars brown, which is going to be right here. No, this is not Mars brown. This is the burnt umber. Feel free to use Mars brown if that's what you want. I've already delved into burnt umber. You can see a little bit of pooling of water here, so I'm going to take my paper towel and just dab a bit. And then I'm just going to add some of the burnt umber. I might have to go back in over here and get more yellow, because it seems to have disappeared. All right, so just a little bit. You want mainly yellow, but you've just a tad bit of the brown in there, so you're just dabbing a bit. Get some more of that. Let's just see if I can add it in. Okay, that's okay. Let's wait for it to dry before we do anything else. All right, so now that we've done our little flowers, we can do our stems. For the stems, again, I'm continuing to use the number 2. So as I mentioned, I'm using the oxide. So I'm mixing some of the oxide on here. Feel free to use any of the greens that you prefer. So I'm actually going to mix a little bit of the dark green, sorry, the emerald with this. And then also the green. So I've mixed a little bit of emerald and green to get this sort of darkish green happening. All right, so now that I have this, we're just going to go ahead and do our cute little stems for this flower. All right, so the stem, they've got some nice wavy kind of stems happening. So let's just make one that kind of is possibly just that way. I know this doesn't have much of a wave. And I'm going to add a second line to kind of give it a little bit of thickness, and I'm leaving some white space in there. I'm going to get some of the darker green and just add it in, or get more green on my brush and just add that in. Perfect. I'm going to get, let's do another stem. This one, let's do it this way. So like a little wave. There we go. Now we've got waves. And again, I am just making it slightly thicker. And where they intersect, I'm just going to add a darker or a second layer of color just so it stands out some more. And then also over here at the top. And there we go. We are done our florals. Actually, if you want to do some poking details for the leaves, they're very I think they're just very linear looking things that you can just kind of have one protruding and then just add a couple of linear thin lines like arcs, and just add them sporadically here or there. Just like I am doing. And they've got a lot of buds as well, but you can feel free to just leave it this way and keep it simplistic and fairly easy for you to do. All right, so now that we've done this, we can now go ahead and add some inking. So I hope you guys are excited for that. We are going to allow this to dry just a tad bit and then start the inking. All right, so we're ready to start the inking. I'm just going to slightly zoom in here so you can see a bit more. And I think this is good. I'm going to move this up a tad bit. So for the main outlines, we're going to use the number 5. And so what we're going to do is add additional detail to these petals because we've just very loosely painted them in. So I'm kind of going over, adding a couple of bumps, then coming all the way in. Now you can, if you like that style of where it's not there's a little bit of white space in between, go for it. But if you want to just outline your petals exactly as they are, I'll leave that up to you guys. It's a preference, so you decide. And yeah, you just kind of go around and add your little individual lines to outline these petals. Give it some definition. Notice I'm doing just a couple of little bumps at the top. Going all the way down in. Same thing here. And then finally here. All right, perfect. And now let's just do the stem. Now I just realized I kind of painted over the stem that's supposed to be over it, but that's okay. Like the green and the black are so, well, dark that you kind of don't really see it as much. So I've done the main little bits. What I will do for the center is I'm just going to give it a little bit of like just little arcs all around using this, and then we're going in with the next pen and we're going to add additional detail. So I'm just going to do the one so you guys can see this, and then you can move on and do the rest by yourselves. Okay, then the next one we're going to use is we're going to use the number 2, and the number 2 is where we're going to be adding more detail. So the detail comes in areas like for the center, for instance, you want to add little lines just like we have them here, right? And that's what really makes things pop. So we're going to start off and just kind of add, actually they even have little lines throughout, right, like this. So we're going to add some of those, like maybe add 3 for each. I'm going to do this all around so you can see, and then we'll move on to doing the tinier lines. Just like this. And they don't have to be, the lines do not have to be perfect. Like you can see there's a little bit of a waver as I am doing them. So feel free to have that. I feel like it always adds a nice charm, like an imperfect charm in your work when you kind of have a little bit of waver for inking. Also makes it look so much more organic and nice. Perfect. So there we go. Again, you can see what a massive difference this makes, right? So you can either use the number 2 and continue with this. Yeah, let's just continue with using the number 2. And now we're going to add some detail in the center. And this is just literally, you're adding a couple of lines and you are kind of going along for each petal. Maybe towards the edges, the lines are slightly longer, and in between they are just haphazard, as in like they're not all the same size. Same thing here. And then same thing over here. And again, even this, just like watercolor, can be so calming because it's a repeated motion or action. And you kind of focus in on your points, and you kind of just really get lost in it, which is kind of nice. If you're trying to relax and just create something nice while relaxing. All right, so as soon as we are done the center, well, for the petals at least, because we haven't started the center. I'm almost done. We're gonna do the outer edges of the petals. So this, I have this last one to do. And now we're done. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a couple of lines coming in from the edges. So for instance, over here, where the folds are, it's nice to kind of have a couple of lines. So then it really does stand out. And then just a couple on the edges. So really at this point, you're kind of doing the main folds, but you're not going all the way down, and you're just kind of adding detail very loosely. And maybe for the edges, if you want to add some more, you can just add a couple of lines there too. And just keep in mind that they need to be irregular in length. So you're not looking for same length shading or lines that you're drawing in. And then some can have just a little bit more around the edges, just like that. And then you can already see it kind of really makes it pop a lot by adding these details. Here's another one. If you do end up trying this again, I would suggest for more startling effects, go much lighter with the color of the flower. Because right now I feel like if it was a tad lighter, you would really, really see this popping a lot more. So we're almost done with this, and then we can survey it and see what else needs some highlights before we kind of finish off with the center. And then all right, so this last one is left here. Sorry, I gotta do this one before we move on. Right here. And when you're doing these lines, don't make them straight. Put them or draw them in the same direction as the petal. So for instance, you got a little bit of a wave. It's not going to be straight. It's going to be a little bit of a curve. So do the little bit of a curve. And you can flank tinier strokes on either side of these longer strokes. So then it looks like a gradual build. There we go. That's it. Okay, so now I think we are able to do the center. So I feel like the center is too dark, so even if we go in with the black, it's not going to show as much. We should have made it a lot, should have probably painted the center first or left a wider white space in between when we did our petals. So what I will do to fix this is get a little bit of gouache. So we're getting some yellow gouache. And using the number 2, I'm just going to go ahead and dab some yellow dots in here. And let's just see when it dries up if we are able to go in and add some tiny little black circles using our pens, which would be nice. And if not, you know what, even leaving it just like this with a little bit of a dotted, yellow dotted line around is pretty. And I'm actually going to do a mini close-up so you guys can see how it actually looks up close and personal. And then you can decide for yourselves if you want to do what I mentioned earlier, which is either getting getting the yellow painted in first, like this, or you know, just making sure that you are able to get a good chunk of yellow in the center before moving on to the petals, or leaving a center large enough to get this yellow in. Because I always encourage white space. So even if you do end up leaving quite a bit of white space and doing the petals around, that's fine too, because white space is great for loose style of watercolor painting, or any kind of watercolor painting or painting in general. White is your friend. White space is your friend. All right, okay, so that's that. And now I will do, let's wait for it to dry first before I do a close-up and show you guys. Okay, so here's a close-up of what I had promised. This is what it looks like, guys. So up close and personal, as you kind of go lower, I'm just going to show you guys exactly the kind of strokes that I've done. And hopefully this is helpful in your painting session. So that's it. And there we go. So that was the close-up. And really quickly, I know I mentioned we were going to do the rigger. So for the rigger, I love doing the wispy little grass-looking greenery. So that's exactly what I wanted the rigger for. So I'm just getting a little bit of a lighter green mixed up with the dark green that we have. And I am just going to use the rigger and create a cute, a couple of wisps of, I guess it could be like blades of grass or like, yeah, like any of the wildflower sort of greenery that goes with it. So we can do a couple here, just kind of wispy and light. Have some of the darker green mixing in there, so you get like that two-tone kind of effect. I know this, I say two-tone a lot in my videos for those who are new. And a couple of wisps here and there, so you can, my angle is a little bit off because of how I have the camera set up. So my wisps might not be as nice, but you guys get the drift. So kind of just go in and add a couple using the rigger, because it's actually such a nice brush for details like this. And just kind of adding some greenery to our cute setup of Cosmos. And notice, yeah, it is a different sort of green so that it stands out a bit more with the actual flowers that we've done. So just a couple of lines here and there. And in fact, if for those who got the Paul Rubens metallic paints, if you want to do these with the metallic paints, that would be really nice too. Just add a couple of wispy looking metallic highlights within the painting. And yeah, and that's it. So let me know in the comments, guys, what you thought, if you like the idea of using watercolor and then using some of the inking in there. And as per usual, if you like this video, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks so much, guys, for watching, and I cannot wait to see your work, and tag me on Instagram and Facebook. Thanks, guys. Bye.